right. Well, welcome to the Indigenous Entrepreneurs Podcast. Today I have Mytegia Lee with us again to talk more about some financial literacy and entrepreneurship topics. This topic that we're talking about today has come up a lot during the liaison's discovery as well as in their own life experiences. And it does impact not only people's financial well-being, but also their ability to start and grow wealth and businesses. So we thought it was important to discuss this topic. And so the topic that I'm talking about is domestic violence and how it impacts individuals, especially on the reservation and in tribal communities. So I asked Mytegia if she could come on and talk to, at least from her perspective, what she's seen and how it does influence people's ability to grow generational wealth. So just a disclaimer that today's topic is very heavy. It's not as fun as some of our other topics, but we did think that it was something that was important to talk about and just start addressing and having these real conversations because these are things that impact Indigenous entrepreneurs and they're not talked about a lot. So we wanted to come on here and shed some light on that. So thanks, Mytegia, for being here, being willing to at least share some of your perspectives on the topic at hand. So if you could just do a brief introduction for people listening who may not know who you are, and then we'll get into the discussion.
Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. It's good to meet you. And once again, my name is Mytegia Lee, and I'm with organization that goes by the name of Southwest Native Assets Coalition. So if you haven't taken the time to go visit our website and see what it is we do, why we do it, and how we do it, that'll give you the opportunity to discover a little bit more about us. But we do financial literacy, credit counseling, and home buyers education, and we are serving tribal communities throughout New Mexico and Arizona. I myself am an enrolled member of the Navajo Nation, and I come from the Quinjojon area, so Manuelito, New Mexico. And my clans are Ashin, Nishlin, Kiani Bashichin, Kabahi Dashiche, Ado, Ilagana Dashinel. So in English, that would be Salt Clan, born for Towering House, and then maternal grandparents being Edgewater and paternal grandparents being white. So that's a little bit about myself. I'm a mother of three, single mother of three, rancher, farmer, cultivator, waymaker, empath, giver, lover, doer. And yes, I think that today's topic is very needed. The reason being is we want to make sure that we're having these uncomfortable conversations because we know that having uncomfortable conversations will allow us to shed light on the situations that are unfolding around us, near us, and with us. And once we start to do that discovery and have these conversations, we can start to find results and, impact change throughout our communities and change the narrative and allow others to know that this is a topic that needs to be discussed more often so that there is a proactive and a reactive approach that is progressive for folks. There is a way out, there is a solution, there is hope, and there are folks that are out there that are willing to support you through these types of situations.
Thanks for that introduction, Mytegia. So I guess my first question would just be, what have you seen in your line of work, where domestic violence or like things going on in the home have affected people's finances and like kind of what does that look like?
Mm. Well, when we see domestic violence, when we're working with our clients, a lot of the times these situations will be a single parent, and that could be male or female. A lot of folks think that when we're talking about domestic violence, that it's females that deal with it, and that's not necessarily the case. It is, on both sides. It is female and male, and the results of what we've seen domestic violence have is very significant in the sense that we have seen displacement, homelessness. We have seen just beyond that, even shattered, not even having a place to stay, but the long-lasting effects that it has on an individual's credit, their financial standing, their stability, um, their health, well-being, psychological, emotional, physical, all of it. We see it impact even their employment. It'll impact their children. So it's just one of those snowball effects. When we deal with a small situation that continues to, just build without being addressed or resolved, it can turn into something that can really dismantle a person, a home, a business. It can really shake and move a lot of things, including a foundation. So it's a very heavy subject. So we have seen, single parents that are males that have, been left with their children. And they're supposed to be the providers, and they're supposed to be the ones that are working and bringing home an income. And because of the situations that they're put in, they end up having to leave that job, and they're no longer able to provide and make sure that that home is paid for, that they have a vehicle, or they're able to pursue their careers, their education, what have you. And we see it on the other side, where we see a lot of these women that are left in these domestic situations where they're having to uproot their children, their homes, and move and start all over again as well. And if not, losing a job, having to decide what's more important, their education or a job, or their businesses. A lot of the times we see folks that are dealing with their businesses that are at a standstill or having to close their doors because of these situations that are unfolding. So it can really be detrimental if it's not something that you address and bring awareness to, or try to ensure that you're letting folks know what you're dealing with and having a proactive approach as to what you can do. But there is hope. There is a way of fixing it. But these are just some of the things that it has led to, and we do see it impact credit. We see it impact finances, to where folks are dealing with displacement.
I think you mentioned in one of our previous meetings, like just one-on-one with me and you, how domestic violence sometimes, like finances are a reason why someone won't leave that
Mhm.
type of situation. So if someone finds themselves in a domestic violence situation, what are some steps that they can take to prepare themselves financially to leave? Because um, I think, something that I just want to emphasize is that this topic impacts like a person's ability, to go off and not just get a job, but maybe they do want to start their own business, but they can't because they feel trapped in the situation that they're in. So, I'm wondering if you can walk us through some steps that people can take in order to make sure that they're safe, their family's safe, and how they can plan and like prepare to leave that
Mhm.
type of situation.
Mhm. And a lot of the times when we see folks that are in relationships where they themselves don't have any income, and they know that that stability is coming from that other person, and that's why they're being controlled. It's like a possessive stance, if you will. The other person is well off, and leaving that other person to be reliant on them. We see a lot of that, and they don't know where to start. Or in the event of where the person was used to being self-sufficient, right? And then when they got into that relationship and it started to be domestic, they were no longer allowed to work. They were no longer able to access their own money, or maybe they are working and they just don't have direct control over their own finances. It's being managed by the individual that they're with in this domestic relationship. That can also be a reason. And it is tricky. It is scary when you're in a situation like that. And you don't know what to do. A lot of the times I tell people, just calm down, slow down enough. And it's like talking them off the ledge, because when you're dealing with a situation like that, it can be very heavy. And when you don't have the right support system, or you're afraid of opening up to anybody because you're afraid that you're not going to get the help that you need, it can put you in a deficit and depression, and it makes you afraid of leaving, because it's not just a physical trauma that you're dealing with, but it's a lot of the times it's a generational trauma, and it's something that we see that's systemic as well. And folks just get caught up in it because there's not enough awareness. So I would say the best thing to do if you're in a situation like that is, if you have your income that's direct deposited. Maybe just try to approach it from a lens of if your funds are getting direct deposited and you don't think that you want that person to find out, go see HR and tell them that you want to very gradually and slowly get funds direct deposited into another checking account. You want to develop another checking account with another bank and start to slowly put away $25, $30, if you will, something that will be very hard for that person to notice. Like, okay, why are they taking an additional $20 or $30 out? Because of taxes. I'm not too sure. They're offsetting it or whatever. And the taxes that I'm paying on, whatever, it's taking that extra $30 or $40. That way it gives you a little cushion room to where at least you have enough money to even just get to and from where you need to go, maybe if it's from one state to the next state. And in the event that that does happen, there are a lot of state and tribal and local resources that are out there for individuals that are dealing with these unique situations. United Way 411 is one of the best avenues that I always refer people to, because if you're not directly near me and I don't know what county you're in, or I don't know exactly where you're at, if you go to United Way 411 and you put that in on your Google search or you put it in on your iPhone, it'll get you a website. And what that United Way 411 is it's a platform for you to look up state, local, and tribal resources that are near you. You're able to input your zip code, and then it'll give you what is exactly near you, whether it's a shelter, whether it's a nonprofit organization that has resources for victims of domestic violence, to where they'll help you with an IDA account where that individual development account is put aside. And let's say that you're not making any income and you have family that's contributing to you. A lot of the times they have these 4-to-1 or an 8-to-1 match individual development account. And what that means is, let's say that you go in there and you tell them that you're a domestic violence survivor. And what you want to do is you want to set up that IDA account so that you can purchase a new vehicle or put a down payment on an apartment or a home, or you want to pay off some debt. And you tell them that you want to save at least $4,000 within the next 2 years. And they tell you, okay, well, this is how our program works. For every $1 that you save of your money, we're going to give you four additional dollars. So if you decide to give yourself that $4,000 goal, they're going to give you $16,000 of their money to match your 4,000. So by the time you walk away from that domestic situation and you fulfill your goals, that's $20,000 that you're able to use to restart. That's money that you don't have. And a lot of the times that's one of the best resources that you will have is nonprofit organizations that have individual development accounts. And the best thing about these resources is if you're starting with nothing, that's what they want. They're looking to serve those folks that have low to lower income that do need these resources. And in the event that you are a victim of domestic violence, there are programs that are out there that are through your local state that will reimburse you. Let's say that you're a victim of domestic violence and you had to move from one town to the next, and you had to incur expenses related to that for, your deposit for your utilities, the last and first month's rent, an additional amount of rent, and you keep those receipts and whatnot. You get a copy of that incident report. You go to that state site and you let them know that you're a victim, and you look up domestic violence reimbursement or compensation program. And what they'll do is when you tally up all of that and you give them a copy of the lease for what you spent, you give them a copy of the deposits that you made, they will reimburse you for that. But you do have to have proof that a report was made and that you did your due diligence in making sure that you reported it and you are indeed trying to get yourself out of that situation. Other than that, I would suggest just being very careful, probably trying to set aside a credit card that the person might not know about, maybe a secured line of credit, because a lot of the times a secured line of credit is the easiest way to go, going to your bank and letting them know, look, I need a card to put aside, a secured line of credit. I don't want nobody to know about it. Can you help me with that? And at least that will give you a fallback for them to be able to help you with. And that's not something that anybody else will know about. or getting a pay card and just having family say, hey, I'm in this situation. I've got this prepaid debit card. Can you send me some money on that? I need to get out of here. I need to get some help. I'm planning on leaving this evening. And I don't want him or her to know, or whatever the situation may be. So there's a lot of things to do in those situations, but we have seen folks credit, look really bad after going through a domestic situation because of all the credit card debt, all of the vehicle debt, all of the debt incurred during those relationships that were forced upon them, or they're no longer able to pay because of these domestic situations. And it is a male and female situation. So, it's vice versa. So these programs are out there and they're not biased to male or female.
So you would you say, because I think we already said this, but like when people are in domestic situations, they're in survival mode, right? And
Mhm.
like that kind of scarcity mentality. So that's what prevents a lot of people from, like, if they want to start a business or they want to do something, like they can't even think about that because they're just surviving or they're just
Mhm.
figuring, like, do you think at least having that option of being able to seek out programs or resources where they can start thinking about starting their own business, do you think that could maybe provide like a little bit of hope, or at least a pathway forward once they're able to get out of that situation? Like, what does that look like, once someone's in the situation, once they get out, like what are their options,
Mhm.
going forward?
Okay, so if it were me, and this is just my perspective on it, I think that when you're dealing with a domestic situation, it shakes the core of your stability, right? So it disrupts what your thought process is like, and your way of functioning. So of course, there's always going to be that hesitation, and there's going to be that immediate thought of failure because you're already in a situation where domestic violence is, because that person is belittling you, because that person is gaslighting you, because that person's physically abusing you, because that person is creating these barriers for you, whether it's physical, emotional, or psychological. So at that point, you are broken. And a lot of the times when you're leaving a situation like that, your success is going to be based off of the amount of hope that others give you in that process. I want to say, as a domestic violence survivor myself, that for one specific individual that goes by the name of Kim Bahi that was out there, and I always refer folks to her, she was such a pillar of hope for me because I didn't know what I was going to do when I went through my personal situation. And when I went to go see Kim Bahi with the Navajo Nation's Fort Defiance Section 8 housing program. She was so quick to take my application, process everything, push everything along, make referrals to state, tribal, and local resources for me to get out of that. And in that situation that I was in, it took me 3 months to be able to obtain a job because of just how bad the severity of the situation was, as far as, just dealing with trying to regroup and recovering physically from the physical abuse that I sustained. So she was a beacon of hope. And it starts with that, finding somebody that's going to be out there. But you, as a domestic violence survivor, have to be willing to open up to somebody to let them help you, because there are people across the board that will help you. I myself and my organization do offer resources for relocation. Like, let's say that an individual is dealing with displacement, and it's not necessarily domestic violence, but if you are needing to relocate, we are able to make a referral. We do have some funding through the state that is there that they allocate for relocation. And if it's not us, let's say that you go to your local housing authority, or you go to your local battered women's shelter, or you go somewhere, they do have direct allies that are able to assist you in that. There's like a United Way 411, like I stated before. In New Mexico, there's a Good Samaritan. They're really good at helping folks with their first and last month's deposit. You have your local charities and whatnot that are able to help you with that. And I would just really say that even though it's a difficult situation, prepare yourself enough to face the fact that the only way that you're going to get out of that is by being receptive to the help that you are being offered, and also ensuring that you build yourself up enough to be consistent with following that goal of getting out of that domestic situation, because it is difficult when you try to leave and that person tries to come back to you and tell you, whether it's male or female, again, that I'll change, I'll things will be different, I'll do this different, I'll do that. And we want to believe that, right? And it's that honeymoon phase. It's about feeling that sense of need and want, and that you're fulfilling something, when all it really is your trauma bond to that person. It's just because you have an abandonment issue a lot of the times that the person feels very afraid of that. But personally, as a mentor, I like to tell people that I can be your biggest cheerleader. We, as you know, folks that are out there on the forefront and boots on the ground, whether it's housing, financial literacy, credit counseling, lending, even on the business front, we could say and do all of this for you. But if you don't take that proactive approach to be a part of the process, it will fail. But there are resources out there. We're one of them. As tribal liaisons, we are one of the biggest cheerleaders for those folks that are in our community that are looking for grant funding. There is grant funding out there, be it through the tribe or be it through other resources that are out there, that we could sit down with you and work with the SBA, work with BCI funding and EDD, and tell them, hey, I have this amazing individual. She is got an entrepreneurial mindset. He's got an entrepreneurial mindset, and he's got all of these traits. We're working on a business plan with him right now. He's limited. He doesn't really have everything that he needs as far as capacity and capital, but we're working on that. Do you think that there's anything that you're able to help us with? And at the same time, the resources that we offer through Rainforest Innovations Program, they're free. New Mexico Community Capital, the training that they offer is free. Freeport, they offer the Dreamcatcher pilot that they're doing, the cohort, that is free. All of these resources are there for you to take full advantage of and to pursue. But a lot of it is based off of your desire to want to change your narrative, change the story, and just get back to the drawing board and take that initiative to be your better, best you. And it's possible. So there are resources out there. If it's not UNM directly, then it's Southwest Native Assets Coalition. If it's not us, then it's the Navajo Nation's Division of Family Services, Social Services. It's Battered Women's Shelter. There are so many endless resources, but I'm just naming the ones off the top of my head that I know of that are in my local community. But if there is anybody that's dealing with that and you do want more insight, or you feel like you want to take that leap to starting your business, reach out to me, reach out to Cecilia, reach out to the UNM Rainforest Innovations program, as well as the Tribal Entrepreneurial Enhancement Program. Let us know what it is you want to do. Let us help you. Let us guide you, and let us let you know what that change can look like and feel like. And let us give you that guidance on the wealth of knowledge that we have and the resources that we have to make that possible and start to pave that new path for you.
And we will link those resources in the description for anyone listening. I'll put those links so that you can access those. I guess my last question, and you've already pretty much answered it, but for anyone listening who is like listening to this conversation and they're like, that is me, I'm in that situation, um, what would you like, what's the first step they can take and what would you advise them to do, like
The
after
first
listening to this?
Okay, after listening to it and knowing what that looks like there, you're afraid of the unknown. You're afraid of what it looks like because you're children. You're afraid of what it looks like for you because you don't want to have that disruption in your life all over, or feel like you have nothing. When in all reality, you are in a situation where you have had everything taken from you. What else, what more can you lose? And this is the time to really think about yourself and what you want to give yourself. So what I would do is sit down and write a list of where you're at and where you want to be. And if that list of where you're at right now is so negative and it's outweighing where you want to be, and all the things that you can do that you're capable of and you want to pursue, if that list is differentiating to an extent of where you're questioning, okay, yeah, she's right, the bad outweighs the good, and I need to get a balance. That is your cue to stage left and leave. If you feel like you're not sure what that looks like for you, talk to a counselor, talk to a family member, talk to somebody that you can confide in to help build you up, because a lot of the times it is the momentum. It is knowing that you have allies that are ready to be able to catch you when you're making this big leap to leave that situation. Write down a list of what you need to do, get together a game plan. And when I say get your game plan together, that means that when you leave, who's going to pick you up, where are you going to stay, um, what are we going to do as far as obtaining a job, what am I going to need to sustain myself during that week or 2 weeks, and what are you going to do after you leave? Okay, do I have a plan of going back to school? Do I have a plan of moving and leaving? Is there a place that I could stay where I know I will not be found? And don't just stop there. Create a plan B and a C, because if plan A and B fail, at least you'll have all those backup plans to where okay, I know that if I go to this family member and I confide in them, they're going to shelter me and they're going to help me get through this to where I know that that person won't find me if I'm in a domestic situation. Or B, I know that I could go to a best friend and I know that this person will help me and they'll help relocate me and they'll do whatever they need. They'll take the availability and time that they need to take me to the places I need to go to make sure that I get the help that I need. And then at the same time, see if those two fail and you don't have any family or you don't have any friends, seek state and local tribal resources. Go to your local library, get on the computer over there and let somebody know you need help. Sit down with them and how ironic, the sirens in the background, but you get the help that you need, but open up and be willing to take the help, because a lot of the times when we're in these domestic situations, our pride gets in the way, right? A lot of the times we're driven by our pride and the fact that we don't want nobody to know what we're dealing with, when in all reality there's probably a lot of people that know what you're dealing with, and masking it is not going to solve the problem. That was something that I know that I had to step back and understand, was that folks had already seen it. And that as I thought I was really hiding it well, but I wasn't. And in the mix of all of that, we're exposing our children to that. You know what I mean? And we're allowing them to think that it's okay, that these patterns of abuse are okay. We're trying to manipulate ourselves, and in the process, we're manipulating those around us to think that these kind of situations are okay, when in fact they're not. Um, get out fast, and be proactive, and just know that you have a line of hope. If it's reaching out to us, if it's reaching out to you over at UNM, and let's see what we could do, because there's a lot of resources that are out there for you, and even legal representation that is free to you, that will support you in that process to make sure that you're safe and that you feel safe while you're journeying through taking your first steps into betterment.
Thank you, Mytegia. I know this is a really heavy and hard topic to talk about, but I think you spoke with so much grace and provided a lot of really good advice that hopefully, if people are unfortunately in those types of situations, can, take and use that as a way forward. And like I said, this is a very heavy topic, but I
Mhm.
did think it was important to discuss it on the podcast because based on the discovery that you all have been doing, it is a barrier
Mhm.
for many people when it comes to starting a business. And it's not something that a lot of people talk about or that is even realized
Mhm.
amongst like other populations. People are like, it's just they're clueless as to what these barriers are. So I did want to address it and come on here and talk about it. So thank you for being willing to share some of your own experience and advice. Is there anything else that you would like to say while we're still on here?
Yes, domestic violence, a lot of the times when we're doing our discovery, it is because of substance and alcohol abuse, and it is a way of control that comes by that other individual. Let's say with what we're doing with entrepreneurs, these are young and aspiring artisans, or young and aspiring entrepreneurs that are in um, their growth. And they're being manipulated by control of saying, well, if you want me to be with you, this is what you have to do, or just taking that individual's, earnings and whatnot. And a lot of times that's why they're afraid to accelerate. That's why they're afraid to grow, is because they have that dark cloud over them that is telling them, no, this is what I want. This is how I want to do it. And you're not going to do this. You're not going to do that. You're not going to go there. You're not going to wear this. You're not going to say that. Um, if you do that and you allow yourself to stay stuck in that situation, rebuilding at a far later time is just it's like turning that hourglass over and running out of that time. We're not going to get it back. It's not like you're going to be able to shake that, that screen clean, and that you're going to be able to get that time back. Time is of the essence, and time is something that isn't anything that you could get right back. It's not like you could go to the store and buy yourself another 5 years on a prepaid card, and I don't want to see anybody else stuck in that situation. My personal opinion is, when I was dealing with what I was dealing with, I lost a lot of years, not days, not weeks, not months, but years in the situation that I was in. And I feel like there was a whole lot more that I could have done different. And I did have the support that I needed around me, but I also was afraid of leaving that situation on my own because of the traumas that I had. And that was, yeah, that was me, of being afraid of those abandonment issues or being alone. And I had to really learn that it was okay to be alone. It is perfectly fine to be alone. It is perfectly fine to think about you first, you as an individual first, and what your needs are, what you require, what you want, what you see. You matter. You matter 100%. And as a mother, as a partner, and as an individual, as a provider, as a father, a provider, again, as just an individual, you matter. Domestic situations can even come in the form of your children or whatnot. You matter enough to not let it happen. And I would just really emphasize that, and I say this with so much humility and like you said, grace, please step back enough to understand that you're valued and that your life means so much more to everybody around you, and you're needed and you're wanted. And in order for us to really make good use of who an individual is for them to really love themselves enough to want the best for themselves, so that we can all help. And it's like a flower, when you're replanting it and it blossoms, it's beautiful. It is, and this is your time to grow. So take full advantage of it, and just know that you have a slew of people that are ready to back you and ready to just allow you to fall, and not fall down, but fall up. And we're here. So, let's do better.
Thanks, Mytegia. I think we will end this episode with that. But I just really wanted to say thank you again for coming on here and talking about this hard topic. I do think it's important, so I'm glad we were able to do this.
Mhm. Great.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you for always allowing me the time to share my insight, my feedback on everything. And I think that this is something, it's one of those tough conversations. It's like one of the skeletons in the closet that we just dusted off. So I'm glad that we took the time to do that. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.